good mixing. Once in a while, people come together and the other one's parks. It's all parks.
I know, it's great. It's great.
Everyone loves parks.
I live on 98th Street. I went to live around like what's happened to the show park is fantastic. It's always good, but it's unbelievable.
It's getting better.
Oh, everything gets better. You gotta be an optimist every year. Things will always get better.
Things have gotten better every year. Technology. It's always a pushback or things getting askew, but in the great skill players.
We're always going to have problems. We'll always deal with it. So, we're looking for perfect situations to do it.
But almost everybody's already running out. So, local or not talking about. The site that's adjacent to the school here was one of the sites that I think they looked into.
Well, if you look at it, you see this one, the 362, they all say, they show you why they want to charge. They say, without accommodate or using sufficient capacity, whatever. So they're prepared to answer those questions.
Yeah, but I think, I'm sure there's a reason. There's some, looking at the financial the logistics of the parcels that are chosen. The parcels in question. I think it's going to create.
Well, you know what? That thing from time to time, we say, why not another spot? What the gentleman from the Board of Education will say, we're hungry for spots. We're granting what's available. It's not how much you want. Unfortunately, some of these spots, Catholic Church, these Board of Education, these church, which they're happy about too. They getting an income. They can keep church. So there are. So it's not like we're buying bare land and buildings. It's usually other buildings that are functional. This one, they have financial problems. They started 30 years ago. But I understand that in the last few years, 2 years, they still have to keep it there because they didn't take any build. It's kind of tough.
And the building, if I'm not mistaken, these buildings are vacant.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
They're vacant. So, that also has to be kind of a deterrent for me. Like dark.
Oh, absolutely. Well, schools are good neighbors. They're regulated, they're policed, you can't speed around them.
They're only open
They're closed on the weekends.
They're only open to certain hours.
Exactly. No, this I remember on the tree when we had one more summer. Was complaining, she was living there forever in high school where I went to. And she said, there's probably so many kids at certain times past my house. So it's you know what I mean? Like, would you like us to tear it down for you?
It's like when people buy houses next to me.
Please.
I used to live in LA.
Yeah.
As an architect, I was designing an expansion to the airport within the airport lanes.
Yes.
Building a new church. And then the neighbors come to complain. And they're like, and I'm like, this airport has been here for like as far as anyone can remember.
Yes.
It's always been an airport. You buy a house next to an airport. And now you're complaining where planes are taking off. education, you know.
And then, as I mentioned last time we were on your Zoom meeting, there's always going to be an issue. And you know, there's always been an issue. There's more and more laws are being manufactured. And even if you made more laws, there's still going to be problems. The thing, of course, with some of these buildings you're putting up, they're trying to get them to have a certain amount of lot of parking spaces, right? Accommodation underneath or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a fine line to walk because to a certain degree, I think technology is going to make it so that less and less people are going to have to own cars. Like probably in the next decade, we're going to have self-driving cars that you can sell them in hands, right? So you don't have to like overbuild to house something that could be, you know. But
Can you hear me? Oh, you can. Testing. So we're going to begin in just a minute. We have a live stream audience of close to 30 people who have tuned in to watch today's meeting as well. Is all good? Are we good, Dorothy? Okay, we're good. Live stream is on. Okay, so I'm going to turn the meeting. My name is Josephine Beckman. I'm the District Manager of Community Board 10. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. I'm going to be turning over the meeting to our chair of our Education Committee, Stephanie Mahaney, Simone Mahaney. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay, good evening. Thank you for joining us and joining our joint committee meeting. I'm Stephanie Simone Mahaney. I'm the chair of the Youth Services, Education, and Libraries Committee, and I'm joined by Chair Doris Cruz and the Zoning and Land Use Committee. Tonight, we will hear from the New York City School Construction Authority, otherwise known as SCA, for the rest of the evening. And they will be speaking to us about a proposed site selection for a new, approximately 676-seat high school facility, including District 75 Special Education seats, located at 441 to 447 and 425 to 439 Ovington Avenue. We would like to welcome Steve Gonzalez and Ophelia Rivas from the School Construction Authority. Also, Richie Barsamian from Assemblymember Brooke Krasny's office, and Basil Kapitanakis from Assemblymember Tanusis' office. Okay, so if you are ready to begin, wonderful.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank the Community Board and for all of you coming out to hear us on this proposed site for a new high school. This is the first site for a new high school in District 20 in decades. As you know, that we have two high schools within the boundaries of Community Board 10. Telecom, which is right down the block, was built in which was known as Bay Ridge High School, was built in 1916. And we also have Fort Hamilton High School over by Shore Road, which was built in the 20s and the 30s. We also have two other high schools in the district, though not within the boundaries of Community Board 10. They are New Utrecht, which was about 100 years old, and FDR High School, which is probably in the 40s and 50s when it was built. So again, as I said, this is a unique situation. We are now looking to build our first high school in South Brooklyn in many, many years. Having said that, as mentioned before, the new site selection, these are the addresses of the former St. Nicholas home, which is right down the block. And tonight's agenda will talk about the mission and vision, public process for site selection, proposed high school, notice of filing, analysis for alternate sites, projected student population, location of proposed school site, the map of proposed school site, and comment submission information. The mission and vision of the School Construction Authority were designed to construct safe, attractive, and environmentally sound public schools for children throughout the many communities of New York City. We are dedicated to building and modernizing schools in a responsible, cost-effective manner while achieving the highest standards of excellence in safety, quality, and integrity. The public process for site selection. The SCA is required to present new sites to the local community board and the Community Education Council before proceeding. One correction, we are proposing we have to present before the citywide council of high schools, since this is a high school. So we're not presenting formally before the CEC. So a 45-day public comment period on the site commenced on April 19th. Formal comments can be shared through the mail and email. And today's focus is on the site itself rather than specifics about the school facility. I would like to note that we don't have a design since we are still in the formal review process and it needs approval by the city council. So at this junction, we do not have design details to share. So the proposed high school site. As mentioned before, the SCA is proposing to build a new high school facility in Bay Ridge with approximately 676 seats, and they will include D75, though we don't know the total number of seats for D75. The proposed site is approximately 35,470 square feet, or 0.81 acres, and it's located at the addresses that I mentioned before. Notice of filing. Pursuant to Chapter 1731 of the New York City School Construction Authority Act, the notice has been filed for the proposed site selection of 441, 447, and 425 and 439 Ovington Avenue, Brooklyn, Block 5873, Lots 73 and 77, and any other property in the immediate vicinity which may be necessary for the proposed construction of a new approximately 676-seat, including D75 Special Ed high school facility in Brooklyn. The proposed site is approximately 35,470 square feet. I mentioned before 0.81 acres, and is located on the north side of Ovington Avenue and bound by Bay Ridge Avenue to the north, 5th Avenue to the east, and 4th Avenue to the west. The proposed site is privately owned and contains a pair of vacant garage buildings, a 2-story unoccupied residential building, and a vacant 5-story building which was formerly a senior care center known as the St. Nicholas Home. The site plan and supplemental materials summarizing the proposed action are available at the SCA, which the address is 3030 Thompson Avenue, Long Island City, New York, 11101. And any questions, comments can be made to Kelly Murphy, Director of Real Estate Services, and the website is www.nycsca.org, community new school sites. Comments on the proposed action may be submitted to the New York City School Construction Authority at the above address or by email to sites@nycsca.org and will be accepted until June 6th of 2023. Now, the alternate site analysis. We did look at 3 other sites in Brooklyn for a proposed high school. And the following locations that we looked at, and we unfortunately turned down for a number of reasons. The first one was at 6700 3rd Avenue, Block 5849, Lots 37. This approximately 19,713 square foot site is located at the intersection of 3rd Avenue and Senator Street in the Sunset Park neighborhood. It was evaluated and was determined that this site could not accommodate a new public school facility with sufficient capacity and DOE program needs. The second site that we looked at is located at 7509 and 7503 Shore Road, Block 5936, Lots 16 and 24. This approximately 30,000 square foot site is located at the intersection of Shore Road and Bay Ridge Parkway in the Bay Ridge neighborhood. The site was evaluated and again was deemed unfeasible due to design and construction concerns. The third site that we looked at is at 362 Ovington Avenue, Block 5891, Lot 43. This approximately 7,919 square foot site is located on Ovington Avenue in the Bay Ridge neighborhood. This site was evaluated and was determined that this site could not accommodate a new public school facility with sufficient capacity and DOE program needs. Now, I'm going to explain this closely because I know you'll see that the projected student population has decreasing in terms of 9th through 12th grade from 2022 through 2027-28. I want to stress that that total population is for overall the entire borough of Brooklyn. That is not indicative of District 20. And why I say that is because Community District number 10 contains 3 high schools. 2 of them, one is Fort Hamilton, which has a 155% capacity. And Telecom down the block is 96%. And then there's the third one, which is a small D75 component. Now, if you add the 2 other high schools that are in District 20 but are not within the Community 10 boundaries, one is New Utrecht, which is close to your boundary, which is in District 11. It's 143%. And FDR, which I mentioned before, is 118%. I want to stress that we are looking to build a high school not based on seat need, but to alleviate the overpopulation of the high schools in this district. Now, as you see here, you have the location of the proposed new school site. This building, as I mentioned before, is the former St. Nicholas home. And there's a map of the proposed new site. Here are the 2 lots that we're talking about here on Ovington. And the comment submission information. Comments submissions should be made via U.S. mail or email. As I mentioned before, the 45-day comment period began on April 19th, 2023, and continues until June 6th of 2023. Any comments can be mailed to Kelly Murphy at the NYC SCA at 3030 Thompson Avenue, Long Island City 11101. You can send your email submissions to sites@nycsca.org. Any information or other further questions, you can email me at sgonzalez@nycsca.org. My work number is 718-752-5046. And the Department of Education, Julianne Bozzo. Her email address is jbozzo2@schools.nyc.gov or Tasnim Sharuk at stasnim@schools.nyc.gov. And that completes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed, I'd just like to welcome Rosalind D. Innocentis from the New York City DOE Superintendent's Office, Raquel Kleinberg from District 75, and Michael Sheldon from Councilmember Brannan's office. I'd also like to let the community know that the committees will begin with their questions first, and then once we have finished, the floor will be open to your questions and comments. Okay, and I would like to begin with the first question. We met with you in November of 2022, and at that time you said that the SCA was not considering building a new high school in Brooklyn at all because New York City students are able to apply anywhere citywide. Why now and why here?
Okay. We also, yes, we had to, sorry. Yes, I know we did talk back in November, but we also deemed that we've had many parents who have come forward. They've come before the CEC meetings. We've had CEC members that were advocating for a high school. And upon further discussions, we also looked at the demographics of the high schools that are here in the district. And that's why we are looking to add a new high school here with the overcapacity, as I mentioned, numbers, and they're in the blue book over on the SCA website.
This is on. Speaking to the numbers and the overcrowding, you said this school is intended to reduce overcrowding in the district?
That is correct.
In District 20?
That is correct.
How do you ensure that? Are the seats going to be restricted for zoned students? Or is it going to be an annex? Or what is the process by which this occurs?
That's a question that would go before the Department of Ed. We don't make that determination.
Okay, understood. Thank you. I'd like to open it up to,
Thank you. How many other schools has the SCA cited on a 30-foot wide, one-way residential street?
At this point, I couldn't answer that question. I'm not, that I don't want to say.
Because it's a very unusual sighting.
It is.
And it's a huge burden on a block that already has 2 schools.
But I will tell you this. Our real estate division, as you know, we're constantly looking for sites for new schools. And this site was the largest site that we could see that could truly encompass and hold a high school. I mean, this is the biggest site that we've been able to look for a long time in terms of a high school.
Would a 676-seat school accommodate the extracurricular activities that high school students need? Would they be able to have any sports teams? Would they be able to have a band? Would they be able to have, probably more than that, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Again, that's something that would have to go during the design phase. I couldn't answer that right now. We have not even started any kind of design or program of requirements.
I think they're questions that should have been asked before the site was chosen.
Okay.
Thank you.
other committee members? Oh,
So do we know, with the overcapacity at the local schools, how many of those kids come from the community and how many commute?
That I do not have that information. I only have the information based on the capacity of the schools. The enrollment and the capacity of the school and the enrollment.
I mean, I'm not against the idea.
Sure, sure.
I mean, it's a high school. It's not an elementary school.
No, it's not.
Where parents are going to be dropping kids off and running them in.
I
and
also
running
wanted to
them
add, there's
out.
no bus service. There's no bus service as well.
It's by the 5th Avenue bus and the 3rd Avenue bus, and it's not far from 2 subway stations.
Yes.
I mean, they're high school kids. If they can commute to Fort Hamilton from 4th Avenue, presumably they can commute to Ovington Avenue and 4th Avenue. I went to a very large high school. I went to John Dewey High School,
Sure.
which was 3,600 students when I was there. It's now closer to 2,500. Going to a large school allowed us to have theater, sports, probably 200 clubs and electives and extracurricular. So I have a little concern about a 676-seat high school, but I also understand that some kids need that kind of environment in order to thrive. They're not going to thrive at Fort Hamilton. And I don't know how big Telly is, but it's 1,500 or something.
I'll give you the numbers.
I just think if you're going to talk about it alleviating the overages in the local schools, you need to know.
Telecom, it's 1,274 students.
I think if you're going to talk about it alleviating the population in our local schools, then you need to know how many of those kids are commuting and how many are going local. Because Bay Ridge, given the broadness of our socioeconomic
Yes.
spectrum, at the higher end, most of those kids are not going to our local public schools. They're commuting to Manhattan, they're going to private schools. So I envision any other school is going to get more of a commuter population than a local population, unless you're going to model it after something like Bay Ridge Prep, which I understand bought the space on Shore Road. I also heard the numbers and capacity. If you're talking like a 7,000 square foot facility, that's going to accommodate 200 kids, not 600 and something. You need that amount of space. So anyway, I'm just kind of a little neutral, but I fully understand that we need schools. We desperately need schools. And for people who were saying, not there, not there, not there, I say, then where? Where do you see this large capacity space? Where do you see building sites that are not being occupied. Because if they're currently being occupied, as astronomical as the insane prices are that we pay for existing space that's not occupied, imagine what it would be if you were trying to push somebody else out, if you were competing with other buyers. So they have to be opportunistic for where space is available.
Thank you. As I pointed out before, our real estate division, we're always actively looking for sites in South Brooklyn, and it's not easy. It's very, very difficult. And this we saw as the best site, 35,000 square feet for a small high school. So,
Can I just clarify? You said no bus service, but even with the D75 seats, is there no possibility for a bus need?
I'm not sure about the D75. I can tell you the regular high school students will not.
Correct, but I just wanted to...
I have to inquire about that.
Okay, and again, just to be clear,
Sure.
do you know whether or not these seats would be open to students outside of CB10 and or District 20?
That, again, I couldn't answer that. That's a Department of Ed
Okay.
question.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to follow up on that. At what point will you know? In order to identify 676, that was just on building and lot size. I think many people, would like to know what the percentage of students from the local area will it be zoned.
We probably wouldn't know that till later on when they start enrollment. We wouldn't know until we're in the construction phase. If this to be approved, we wouldn't know till later on.
Okay.
We wouldn't know right away.
There was a question that was submitted in advance
Sure.
regarding the Santander Bank site on 89th Street and 5th Avenue, which
Yes.
is a site that was proposed for
That
a
is
high
correct.
school. Because it was closer in proximity to Fort Hamilton High School and could possibly be an annex. Will this school be an annex to either Fort Hamilton High School or to telecommunications?
At this point, not to my knowledge. It's a standalone high school.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say, based on Doris Cruz's questions, perhaps someone from the Board of Ed should have been present at this meeting. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing, I just have a little question. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm reading in the pamphlet we were given that right now we have almost 79,000 student population, 6th through 8th grade. But by 2028, it'll be
Yes.
decreased by 10,000.
I
So,
clarified that when I made
please
the...
explain.
Yes. That's overall Brooklyn. Those numbers encompass all of Brooklyn. That's the population in Brooklyn. That's not referring down here, reflecting here in South Brooklyn. Because the situation in South Brooklyn is different than the overall borough of Brooklyn.
But the statistics also said that the building of this school would reduce the overall overutilization.
Yes, of the other school, yes.
From 65% to 64, so, but that was not in CB10, that would be overall in Brooklyn?
No. No. Only in CB10, District 20.
Would reduce
That's what we're looking
okay.
to do with this new high school.
Okay, I think. Are we just committee members? Barbara?
I worked in both telecommunications and Fort Hamilton.
Sure.
And for your information, most of those students come from outside of District 20.
Mm-hmm.
So just have to keep this in mind. Also, I'm aware that this school, IS 30, has the first 2 grades in an apartment building across the street. Now, if that's the case, why would you be spending taxpayers' money to build a new thing when this school is paying money to the apartment house for those children? This is contradictory. And in a high school, one of the best things to differentiate it from an elementary school are the activities, the band, the gym. Is there space for a playground? A gym is very important. So putting a high school in a small space, and don't forget that the administration, the teachers, the administrators also need space. This doesn't seem to be completely feasible.
I appreciate your comments, and I will add this. And I heard from the other speaker before that I do intend to relay your comments this evening in terms of activities, band, gym, to our design team once this, and if this is approved, the city council.
And a library,
And a library, yes.
a computer room, several computer rooms.
Thank you. I intend to relay your comments. Yes.
Thanks for the presentation. I'm sympathetic to building new schools, but I want to reiterate some of the questions that have been brought up as far as the selection process.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the selection process that went into selecting the site, other than the size of the lot itself? Were there other considerations, traffic, noise, including, I guess a follow-up question to that would be, what would be done with the existing structure that is currently there?
Well, we would, in terms of the existing structure, we would demolish it. It would be taken down. It would be demoed, and then we would build a new high school there.
Have you anticipated how big of a building?
No, we have not.
Space?
As I pointed out before, we do not have a design on this building. We cannot put a design on this building until after a city council approval. So no, we have not.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Steve, also as part of site selection, which we've been through a few of these meetings, the SCA does have guidelines, and this is a unique site in that it has only one street frontage.
Yes.
Are there other schools that are comparable in size that are only on one street frontage that we could look at?
Yes. Well, it's on the corner of PS 264. That's 89th and 4th, right down the block. That's it's a corner, but the entrance is on 89th. I understand. But, I'm sorry? Yes, I know. It's right down the block. Yes. And we also have on a one-way street, we built the pre-K center over at 93rd. That's also in the middle of the block, and the frontage is on a one-way street. I know it's not the same thing as the high school, but it is on a one-way street. And it's a smaller thing, yes, but it is, yes.
Are there any other questions from committee members? No? Okay. Okay. Victoria? Hoffman.
Oh, yes. Hi. Yes, I do. Oh. Get this out.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, and I wanted to just thank the community board for hosting this meeting and being so thorough in the notification process, because so many people I know got the notifications. And it gives the community a voice on what is to be developed on the site. I was born in Bay Ridge Hospital, which was later the St. Nicholas Home, attended, worked, and now I'm on the board of Lutheran Elementary School. I now work at the Bay Ridge Center for Older Adults part-time, where I've also been a volunteer. Both are part of Bethlehem Church. I've attended since I was 3. I live around the corner at 7201 4th Avenue. So you could say I know this block and area thoroughly and intimately. And my joke is, when I die, it's going to say on my tombstone, born and died in the same block in Brooklyn. That's going to be on my tombstone. So, is there a need for this school? This is the first thing I was thinking. Recent stats show that there are 100,000 less students in New York City public schools, and that New York's population has been decreasing pre-COVID. Also, we have had several new schools built and many expanded in the last 10 years in our area. One more is being built a few blocks away on 3rd Avenue. Telecommunications is a few blocks away on 4th. We are being told that District 20 is in need of schools. My question, is the Bay Ridge portion of District 20 still in need of seats, even after all these recent additions and expansions? I just wish that we would look at the entirety of District 20. It seems like a lot goes in Bay Ridge. Like all the schools you just mentioned with the frontage are all in Bay Ridge. Second thing, There is an oversaturation of schools in this portion of Bay Ridge in general and Ovington Avenue specifically. The area between, thank you, the area between 67th Street to Ovington Avenue, and I did a little map from 6th to 3rd, contains the following schools: PS 170, 912 students; ISPS 30, 968 between the two buildings; LES 142, telecommunications 1,273, the new school on 3rd Avenue and Senator 330 seats. Let's also take into consideration that Bay Ridge Prep's upper school is at 3 blocks away on 4th and approximately 100 students, and PS 102 is not that far away, 71 and 72, 1,298 students. On this block alone, there will be 2 schools on the same block, LES and part of PS 30. PS 30's main building across the street, so it's like a half a block with over 1,000 students in a half block area of a residential street. If you include some of PS 170's parents, because there's 912 students, they have to use that street to go west, that adds substantially more vehicles. This block was part of Ovington Village and is very narrow. The traffic is already insane. If you think that students are not driven to school, you are mistaken. I run an after school and pick up from PS 102 every day. Both 71st and 72nd from 3rd to Ridge have double parked cars the entire length of the block every day. For these reasons, it's not a good location for another school. And then I was also thinking about adaptive reuse. Is this the best use of this site of the former Bay Ridge Hospital? It has been successfully adapted to St. Nicholas Home for senior residents for decades. It makes more sense to reopen the site as a senior housing, especially as Bay Ridge is a NORC. Instead of the controversial, thank you. Instead of the controversial and expensive ground-up construction on Short Hill Senior Housing site. When I mentioned this possibility at a meeting, I was told that the Bay Ridge Center for Older Adults, part of the church, in tandem with the Fifth Avenue Committee, had proposed to do just that, provide senior housing here once again. How we plan our community with an eye to balancing the needs of residents, businesses, and services matter. And how we utilize government resources matters. And for those reasons, as well as the others I stated, a high school is not a good fit for this site. But much needed senior housing is. It is more cost-effective than ground-up construction, as well as more accessible to transportation and shopping. Senior housing would not disrupt the block, as it would just be a reuse of what had already existed on Ovington Avenue for decades. And then I'm gonna, this is not, everybody can't see this, but I just did a little analysis of that little street from 6th to 3rd and from 67th over. Those are all the schools. There are 8 or 9 schools that we have there. And I also wanted to mention that there is another high school that was opened recently on 59th, 60th Street on 3rd, which is definitely used by people in this community. And overcrowding in our schools is not because of our population, it's because everybody in the whole city comes to schools here, which I know is their right, but that's the reason. And I'd like to add that District 20 is not only Bay Ridge. I wish we look at the entirety of District 20. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll chat.
I wanted to add one other thing. You mentioned, Josephine, you asked me about other schools that were at a frontage on a one-way street. The PS 170 edition, that's on a one-way street. But I understand, but no, the addition? No, it's one way. Yes, but the frontage is going down towards 6. It's on a one-way. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Greg Lynch. Would you, if you can come forward, please? So, because of the, no, you can come this way.
How are you, Mr. Lynch? Good.
Briefly, you mentioned that you had looked at a site at 75th Street and
Yes,
Shore
we looked
Road.
at, that was one of 3 sites we looked at. Mr.
And
Lynch.
the reason that it wasn't appropriate seemed ambiguous. I was wondering if you could clarify why that site wouldn't work, because it's not part of the density of the schools that are already in the area. So I was just wondering if there's a little bit more of a clarification as why that
I
site...
don't have any further clarification.
Okay, and my other concern is high school students are different than grade school students. They're becoming adults, and they're not all on the same page as far as the maturity that they might exhibit and their sense of self-control, and they're adults. in every other aspect. And if you have two high schools using the same subway station, I can almost bet dollars for donuts, you're going to have trouble at that station. It's not just a matter of crowding. It's a matter of people not getting along with one another. It's just simply that they feel you're from a different school, you're a different group, and I don't appreciate you being in my space. And I had experienced firsthand with my former job, that was one of the things we had to do, was pay attention to where the schools close proximity to each other. The famous Fame High School in Manhattan, Arts and LaGuardia, thank you. It's right next to Martin Luther King High School, and I can tell you how that went. And after being bullied for a while, the arts students decided to stick up for themselves. And it's trouble. It's a lot of trouble because, as it's been pointed out, the seats in the school for the entire high school students can go anywhere in the city. So these kids will be coming from all around. They'll have to use public transportation to get there. And when the schools release and they're all heading home at the same time, there's a possibility for a lot of trouble. I don't know if the Board of Ed has addressed this security and safety issue, but it's something that should be considered. I feel very strongly about that issue. That's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quickly, is there a reason why the SCA only looked at sites in this area as opposed to the rest of District 20?
As I said, we look at sites wherever they're available to be looked at. We constantly looking for sites. These are the 3 alternate sites that we looked at in terms of a high school, and they were just not feasible.
Okay, thank you. Eva Bata, and for those coming up to speak, would you please try to keep your comments to 2 minutes? We're on a timeline here, please.
Hi. As we know, we have already 2 schools in that street. Oh, we have already 2 schools in Ovington Avenue, in that block, and we have this one. That's the 3rd one. Do we need a 4th one? No. In one block? No. How are we going to handle the traffic? The parents are coming and pick up the little kids by car. We cannot go through Ovington Avenue anymore. 5th Avenue is jam-packed with double parked cars. They cannot even turn into Ovington Avenue. My car's, what is it, on the side is always damaged because we cannot fit in. Did they look around when they see this site? Did they know that time? We have 3 schools within one block. Can somebody answer?
Thank you. Any comment? Okay. Next, Ismail Demiri. Yours, okay. Stephen Stowe.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. My name is Steve Stowe. I'm the president of the Community Education Council for District 20. I'm also a Bay Ridge resident, although I do not live on Ovington or in the immediate area. I just wanted to share a little bit of the sort of some background work. I've been involved with this. I know Steve. We've talked a little bit about this and various other projects. And there's sort of 2 parts of this for me. One is I can share data with everyone that hopefully will convince you of the need for the seats and how difficult it is. But a lot of the same objections that the previous speaker just raised, especially about this part of District 20, I wholeheartedly support. If anyone cares, they can see my Facebook page where I immediately said this is not the best location in District 20. There's much more overcrowded areas and sort of some of our immigrant areas, 8th Avenue and sort of the N train along there that need a high school much more. But just the numbers alone in District 20 are we're so short on high school seats. We're short 3,600 right now. And then there's a new class size law coming into effect starting next year. And the class size law, which I don't think is a good idea for District 20, but it's now the law, requires class sizes at high schools lowered from 34 kids a class to 25 kids a class. And so that's an automatic 25% increase in the number of seats we need. So we've gone from a shortage of 3,600 to a shortage of 4,500 in District 20. So again, I'm not a proponent of the law, but I'm just saying that's the sort of the numbers game that's at play here. And then on the District 75 portion, you know, I know families who travel an hour or more to get to Manhattan for services for their District 75 children. It's an experience that takes a toll on families and on the kids. So I do support the need for more District 75 seats in District 20. We're short about 200. But that being said, I really do appreciate the comments about, is this the best location? Steve, I've sent him a bunch of sites. I would appreciate the SCA being a little more open and collaborative on some of the work that we do with them. I really appreciate some of the comments here about, why was this site picked? And, Bay Ridge already has all these schools, and, why not elsewhere? That's sort of a way of saying I generally do support it, but there's definitely issues that I'd like to continue working on, and I hope the SCA continues to. So thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment. Steve, I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate your comments in terms of seat need for high schools. As you know, Steve, we did meet with you virtually when we went over and discussed. You brought up a number of sites. You met with our Vice President of External Affairs virtually with Andrea, and we explained why, It took, but we explained why those sites were not feasible. And we do appreciate, again, you coming forward and lending your advice and your suggestions.
Thank you. Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. You probably will not know the answer to this, but
yes.
He demonstrated the need for District 75 seats, high school seats, in our community.
And they will be included in this.
But why are there none at Fort Hamilton High School?
I can't answer that again.
Well, I think it's an important question to be considered before making other decisions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And do you know why all of the District 75 seats at telecommunications are not utilized? I think they're underutilized.
Again, that's
okay. Right.
That's not within the realm of the SCA. Thank you.
Thank you. Richie Barsamian?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Richie Barsamian. I am the Director of Community Affairs for Assemblyman Alec Brooke Krasny of the 46th Assembly District. Our district stops about 4 blocks away. We're physically in the district of Assemblyman Michael Tanusis, who is represented tonight by my colleague. However, we gather tonight. Thank you, Community Board 10. This was very, very well put out there. The information was there. And we're very delighted and pleased that the community has an opportunity tonight. Steve Gonzalez, thank you for your SCA presentation. However, we cannot allow this decision to exist in a vacuum. The Assemblyman is extremely cautiously optimistic. However, there will be a very substantial impact on the community because of the intense concentration in this immediate area of existing schools. Having said that, we understand that the existing high schools within District 20 are at or far beyond capacity. But Steve, I wish there was someone else this evening with you from the DOE, because you represent the construction side. But tonight, we gather with many, many unanswered questions, as grateful as we are for the thoroughness of your presentation. One of them would be, just like Fort Hamilton, just like telecommunications, just like all of the schools within District 20 high schools, are at or far beyond capacity. What guarantee do we have that in a couple of years after this school is built here, that we do not far exceed the proposal of 676 students, and now we have a school here that is well beyond capacity, that was designed to handle overflow depending on how the DOE decides to make seats available. So we must be very thorough. This cannot exist in a vacuum. We have to look at safety concerns, police concerns, the enormous impact on the mass transit system, and once again, what does it mean? As much as we may need it, Steve, what will the impact be on a one-way street that is already sandwiched between two avenues where there already is a substantial school population? So we need to move forward with extreme caution to answer the questions that tonight remain unanswered. It's about safety, it's about vehicular traffic, it's about pedestrian safety, and it is about the totality of what will occur. Will the negatives of this school outweigh the positives, or can we arrive with Assemblyman Tanusis, with Councilman Brannan, with Senator Granardis, with all of the elected officials, can we arrive with the community at a point where we have safety and we have real information from the DOE on what this can become and what it will become? So tonight, Steve, thank you, but we have so many unanswered questions. Community Board 10, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I would like to add that I tend to go back to our division. Ophelia and myself will speak with the SCA upper management and express your concerns in terms of traffic and some of the other items that you've brought up tonight.
The term is cautiously optimistic.
Yes, I hear you.
We have a lot of people that want to do what's right for
Sure.
the future of our community.
I hear you.
But at the same point in
We
time,
hear you.
they have reservations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do want to add to the audience tonight, the Community Board 10 did invite the Department of Education. It is these questions we knew would come up, would be asked, and we did ask for representation and are disappointed that representatives that could clarify some of these points are not here. We will follow up with DOE in the issue of transparency. These are key and important questions that should be answered before the board presents a recommendation and adopts it on May 15th. We have a narrow window. Stephanie?
Okay, I'll give you an overall. District 20 begins in Sunset Park and includes Sunset Park, Bay Ridge, Dyker Heights, a small portion of Borough Park, small portion of Bensonhurst, Bath Beach. I'm sorry? No, a lot of Bensonhurst is in District 21. A lot of Bensonhurst is in Bay Parkway. Yeah, it goes to Bay Parkway. The other side of Bay Parkway going east, that's all Bensonhurst, that's all District 21. So, again, I'm just giving you all my... I know I think the sites that we had here were all in the Bay Ridge area.
Yes. Are there any other questions from the Julie?
What I'd like to know is maybe you can get the question answered as to why those other sites were not appropriate. Like the Santander site, the answer was ambiguous. Somebody said that. There was no answer as to why that school site was not okay. That seems like it would have been a perfect location for high school. So I think I'd like that answered personally.
Any questions from the, if you'd come up, please. Thanks.
I'm never giving it back. Understanding there's some sites that didn't work for this. Could they work for something else? We know that there's a site right here that's been like defunct for a while. We heard a rumor that it was going to help expand this school, get those kids out of that apartment building. Just because that doesn't work for this, could it work for other solutions for these schools to get that school off the block, maybe develop, you know, an elder center, things like that? So just because they don't work for this, could they work for something else? And then the high school would make more sense.
Well, based on the square footage, normally the average for, at least for a public school, average is about...
Oh, I need to give you my back.
I don't know if you can hear me. It's normally about, the minimum is 20,000 square feet that we look for a public school. And I think some of them were under the 20,000 square.
On this.
Yes.
Oh, we got
for
it.
a high school.
So
Yes.
the one that you've picked is the biggest one possible at 35,000. If you clear out that space.
It's possible we could come back and look, but I, you know, again,
I'm just trying to think solutions because everyone wants to know, you know, I get it, but like if we don't do this school.
If this school is deemed it doesn't occur, then we have to look at another site. Again, and that's not going to be easy. Again, this is a great site for the high school. We saw this in terms of maximizing the use of a high school. Oh, I would say the last number of months that we've looked, the last, yes. Okay?
If you've been looking at sites for several months, why is the 75th Street and Shore Road site included? Because Bay Ridge Prep already owns that and has development plans. I don't understand. Well, I'm confused.
Any other questions from the community? Yeah. Would you? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paul Hockmeyer. I grew up on 61st Street, what used to be Bay Ridge. When the highway went through, it became Sunset Park. I'm not sure how many of you were here when the highway went through about 60 years ago, when they started demolishing all the houses along 6th, 7th, and 8th Avenues and stuff to put that highway through. But it took a dramatic toll on the neighborhood. I've known a number of people who lost their homes that were there for a long time. What the School Construction Authority appears to be doing is looking for vacant areas or property that has been more or less abandoned up for sale to site the school in the neighborhood where we're short on seats. So to their credit, they found St. Nicholas Home and the parking garages that are there that were possibly going to turn into housing for condos or something like that. But there are not a lot of big pieces of land in this area, even for 4 or 5 miles around here, which is why they're probably pointing to this area now. I live a block away from here. I'm on 72nd and 4th. And Ovington's a disaster. You come here any day of the week looking at the school situation, people dropping off, school buses, picking up kids, walking through the streets. It's not the best site. But I don't know of any other site offhand within a mile or two of here that could hold something that size. The spot on 75th and Shore Road was part of Zavarian's Brotherhood or something like that at some point. It's not that big a site. It's maybe 2 acres or something like that. This site is actually a much larger piece of land. So from a physical point of view, it's a nice location because it's unused land at this point with the garages there and the buildings. But it's just a bad place with all the traffic we have here and the other schools in the area. But find something else. Where are they going to go? There was a building up on, was it 12th Avenue, was the orphanage. That whole block has been raised basically, and now it's condos. That would have been a nice piece of land, but it's developed at this point. They're not going to tear those down. But eminent domain is probably an option as well. What block should we tear down to build a new school if we don't use an existing site? That's kind of where we are, I think.
Actually, the 12th Avenue site that you mentioned is the old Angel Guardian home, and 2 schools are on that site, or will be. Yeah. Any other, Victoria? Can,
I think there should be an analysis of what schools are underutilized, because they do exist, and I don't understand why every school in District 20 has to be in Bay Ridge. That's what I don't understand. Because, yes, it's overcrowded, but people are not going to stop coming to school in Bay Ridge. They come from all over the city. They have a right to do that. It's not going to change the situation, but we should also be looking at what schools are underutilized. There are schools that are underutilized. And why aren't people going there? What's the reason? It has to do with more what they're offering, how they're teaching, the quality of the education. So I don't see, if you keep building, yeah, more people will come, but I think we should be looking at the whole District 20 for a site. That's my suggestion.
thank you.
We did have some parents who were here before the meeting began, and they left some comments. I just want to read them into the record. My name is Manaya Abdullah. I'm in second grade at PS IS 30. I feel like we need more space at the annex because we have a lot of students and they need space for a gym. We also need a library and more space for recess. You could make a bigger cafeteria. It feels unfair that you'll build a new school while we're stuck in an old building. The next is, would like PSIS 30 to have the lot next door. Having the K-2 in the annex down the road is restricting. They do not have a schoolyard, a library, own a proper gym. The building isn't designed as a school. If we have the K-2 next door, they could share some of the facilities without having a little crossing the road to use them. And then the final comment, it's difficult for parents having more than one kid to pick up their kids at the same time in two different buildings. The annex needs more space for playground and a gym and a library. The annex is in need of a decent building with a nice schoolyard and a safe dismissal. It's not fair that they're building a high school next to the elementary school. So those were 3 comments that were put before. And also we also did receive a note from an email from a parent during the meeting that said there are already 2 school crossing guards on 4th Avenue at Ovington Avenue. That intersection cannot accommodate 675 additional students.
Are there any more questions or comments? Pastor, oh.
Do we know how many students are attending in these 3 schools on Ovington Avenue already?
Well, we have, actually.
PS 170 has 912 students. ISPS 30, 968 students in grades K-8. Lutheran Elementary School, 142 students. Telecommunications High School, 1,273 students. The new school on 3rd Avenue and Senator Street, 330 seats.
On Ovington, that was. And the Lutheran Elementary School is on Ovington. What is 142, and then what was the IS 30 on Ovington? She wants to know. 968.
Hi, Reverend Paul Knudsen from Bethlehem Lutheran Church on the corner. I just saw the opening paragraph, and I just wondered if you had clarification on the last clause. It says, "and any other property in the immediate vicinity which may be necessary for the proposed construction." So in addition to the lots that you're considering, are there other lots on the block that you're also considering possibly?
Not to our knowledge, no.
Okay, so the
these are
clause makes it sound like it's possible that it would be expanded beyond those
No, I
lots.
believe that these 2 lots are the only ones that we're looking at.
Would that include parking for the staff?
I will tell you, we do not, I say this is a motto of the SCA, we build seats, we don't build parking spaces. No, parking would not be on site. First of all, the property itself, it wouldn't be conducive. We wouldn't have enough room to do the parking. Thank you.
You have a question? Would you? No, we have the live stream.
We just need everyone to come up for the live stream. We have over 40 people also watching from home.
Hi, my name is Antoinette Donnelly, and I live directly across the street from St. Nicholas. As it is right now, when the schools, the 3 schools, are letting out, that traffic is so bad that the honking is deafening. You can't even think. The parents double parking, the parents on the street, they've knocked off my mirror off my car 4 times already because the parents come in. High school kids aren't going to help. They're just going to make it worse. I'm sorry, I'm very opposed to this. What about us? The teachers take up our parking spaces. We're not going to have parking. We don't have it as it is with the parking. The Lutheran school, thank God, he provides for his teachers. But the rest of the teachers are fighting for parking spaces. And it's not just us, it's the teachers as well.
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate one point that was brought up, the impact that this will have on the Bay Ridge Avenue subway station. I mean, you know, we'll have 2 high schools using it, but they're very, very narrow platforms. And I think that must be considered. The safety of all those students must be considered. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm actually a staff member from PSIS 30. And so I wanted to ask the DOE, SCA, sorry. Why not consider the annex kids from kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade are currently, like they stated, there is no recess for them to go outside during the lunch period. The cafeteria the kids are literally on top of each other. There is no library for them. They don't have a art room for them to do art. In addition to that, are we considering putting in high school next to the Lutheran Church, who's in elementary, currently the annex, who's K to 2nd, and we are the middle school. And telecommunication, we're a small community as is. Putting a high school right next to the Lutheran Church, right next to the annex, where there's children and the reality is, children in high school, they're adults, as people have stated before. They do not have any concept of the children. And if there is an altercation, it comes right back into our buildings, and we need to deal with the altercation between a high school and a middle school, because I'm the middle school here. And though we've been blessed, the community is great, we've had our struggles, but again, putting a high school is a different domain of children. They go to high school, you're not dealing with no longer an 8th grader, you're dealing with the 9th, 10th graders, there's relationships, there is smoking. Currently right now in Bay Ridge, when you walk on 3rd Avenue, 4th Avenue, the smell is not where I want my child to walk. So if I bring in high school kids, that is what the world that they're living, the vocabulary that we're going to expose the Lutheran children, the annex children, the middle school children. We need to really consider putting a high school when the annex is a K through 2nd grade, and currently we have 3, 4, and 5, where we could utilize the space even better because we're currently overflowing. And giving us that space to make it a true elementary would be the best solution for this community. At least I think so. High school, you're dealing with adults. You're dealing with kids that they're going through a lot of things as is. And that is my...
Thank you. Terry?
So I imagine the SCA's assignment was to find space for a high school. So that's what they did. people are presenting some really important issues about the overcrowding in the lower schools, but that was not their assignment. So I think you have to make your voices louder about what you need. The other thing is, I think we need to be careful that we're not so precious about Bay Ridge. We have overcrowding. We have a nice neighborhood. Kids come here. That's okay. None of our public schools offer parking for teachers. This would not be unusual. If you live near Shore Road and 91st Street, you know what a nightmare Shore Hill presents with ambulance runs and ambulettes and visitors. We deal with it. You know, we don't live in the suburbs, we live in the city. And that comes with stresses and strains and advantages. And I just think we need to be mindful. We go through growing pains and they're a little torturous, and then we get over it as we adapt and we get used to it. We got used to Shore Hill. Yeah, sorry. Kids need decent places to go to school. They just do. No, they don't? Right?
All right, understood, thank you. There you go. Would you like? Okay, would you have a question? If you'd like to, please come up and.
Hi, a good presentation. My name is Carmelo DeBartolo. I'm on the board. I just think from what I've seen, you obviously did your diligence. The problem we're all having as a community, and by the way, I was born on that spot. So that spot's where I grew up, and I live on 72nd. The problem that we're all having is no one knows the site selection criteria. No one knows the other sites and why they weren't selected. So the visualization that these people are getting is, hey, we went through the process, trust us, this is the best spot. And our experience as New Yorkers and Americans is no one ever wants to hear that from anybody, trust us. Because we don't. So not that we don't trust you, but we don't trust bureaucracy to do the diligence that we're asking. So if we had the site criteria and what it was based on, if we actually had a full comprehensive report that shows the site criteria, what the other sites were, and why the other sites failed, then there would be a more compelling case. And let me finish this with saying, I'm all for building schools. And I know that there's no room in New York. There's a parcel-sized spot, they're going to put a tower on it and 600 apartments. And that's the way life is. If they're not going to build a school there, they're going to build a tower there. So take the easiest solution, because if they put a tower there, your parking's going to get much worse, and so is mine. So if you come in with the DOE, or the BOE rather, and you come in with all your cards and everything done so we could understand why this was the spot, then I think we'd all be a lot more comfortable. And again, that being said, I'm all for building more schools. And if this turns out to be the ideal spot because of the criteria that was used, and maybe we propose as a board and as a community that other criteria should also be viewed, then so be it.
If I may add, one main criteria why these sites were not selected was the square footage. You had one that was 19,000 square feet for a high school. The other one's 30, and then there's the one that's 7,919 square foot.
That's the obvious stuff.
Yes.
But obviously, there are other criteria that you see. You look at traffic, you look at proximity. I know, that Bay Ridge is not a transit desert.
Can you?
The area that you're proposing these schools are here for a reason, because they're close to public transportation. And I know that this school would be close to public transportation. And I know that probably is in your criteria. But we don't. And we need this to be transparent. Because every time something plops down on us, it's plopping down on us. We're never included in that. So if you walk in and it's all transparent, hey, maybe it'll get you 50% better than we got tonight. And that's just my my opinion on when you present to community boards or the greater community, the more transparency, the better. And if you can't be transparent about it, then I guess we shouldn't be presenting. Thank you.
We will, let me just say this in terms of your comments. We will get back to real estate, and we're going to see if I get specific answers why.
Okay, so I'm going to speak a little bit to process going forward since there's no more questions. The community board does have a role that was placed upon us by the state legislature. We heard a reference to Section 1731 and community participation. So the board is charged within 45 days of notification from the School Construction Authority to prepare and submit to the authority written comments on the site plan. And the public has the opportunity to comment on the site plan as well. Steve had mentioned we have notices here that provide the email address if anyone individually wants to send comments, but the board will be formulating its recommendation. We are not going to do it tonight because we only have about 10 more minutes in this room. But we will be meeting as a body again, and we will notify everyone who signed in tonight of that meeting. We agree. We have a lot more questions, I think, and speaking to Stephanie and some of the members on the board, we want to be as transparent as possible. There were lots of points that were raised tonight by the community. We are disappointed that the Department of Education representatives were not here to answer these questions. We can also provide the site selection criteria. We will go into that a little bit more in our next meeting on the matter. The community board is advisory. We will take into consideration the members of the Zoning and Land Use Committee and the Education Committee will meet, and they will formulate a recommendation. And that is done in a very open and public format. So we don't have a date for that. We didn't anticipate needing a second date to deliberate and come up with this recommendation, but we want to be as transparent as possible. So we invite all of you to sign in and provide us your emails if you are here today. Feel free to call and ask any further questions you have of the district office, and we will be working on setting up a date before our board meeting, which will take place on Monday, May 15th at the Fort Hamilton Senior Center at 7 p.m. That meeting also is live streamed as this meeting is this evening. I think I covered it all. Stephanie, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Josephine. And so this really concludes our meeting this evening. I would like to thank Steve Gonzalez for the presentation, and also the representatives who are here, but also the community for your input, your comments, and your concerns. And as Josephine said, as soon as we've selected a date for the next meeting, she will put that information out. And if you haven't already left your email, please do so. Thank you all for coming. Have a good night.